Hi, welcome to the Antminer Repair channel, and tonight we're going to learn how to build our own hashboard code editor. Now the hashboard code editor is nothing more than an eeprom writer, and you can actually buy eeprom writers on Amazon for fairly inexpensive if you want to run them entirely off your PC. I've converted this one. It has no screen, it's not special, it just I converted it so it would be connected to, not in a very pretty way, the 18-pin hashboard code. So all I'd have to do is plug this using my USB and fix my eeprom on my hashboard. This one is actually more like you would buy from Zeus. It's a SkyPro 2. Get them pretty easy for about $100. And this is kind of nice because this battery run, if I want to use it, I can just turn it on. And it'll start up, I think. Whoops, if I press the right button, it actually goes like this. So if I turn it on, I can actually start it up and program my hash. You notice there's no USB. It has a battery. The one you buy from Zeus is soldered right here with just wires to the board, and they end up falling off and breaking. And also, it doesn't have a battery. This one has a battery. So the one you buy that's complete from SkyPro, you can get them on eBay, sometimes Amazon, sometimes from Alibaba, is a much nicer unit. I'm not sure why they stripped the battery out, maybe some shipping restrictions or something like that. So we're going to make this guy. You might not be enthused in my manufacturing process so much. I'm using simple tools that I have, and I'll go over what I use. You may have better tools, you might even make a better system, but this thing is solid as a rock. Things are soldered, protected with heat sink, wrapped in tape. These guys aren't going to fall out. It's a little bit clunky, they stick out a little bit. Not so concerned with that, to tell you the truth. So for me, this works great. I carry it around. If I drop it, it's not going to do anything. It's just really, really tough and solid. Okay, so we're going to make this. So let's go over what we need to make these things. First of all, you need to buy a SkyPro. And so this is what it looks like. It comes in a blue box usually. And out of the box, I'm going to leave all the cable stuff here. I don't really use it. I could probably use some in my manufacturing, but this is it. It's in a plastic bag, and you notice it has a place to put EEPROMs. This is like an 8-pin thing, and you lift this up and it clamps the chip down. We're going to remove all this, and we're going to go into the board, and we're going to solder some pins in there so we've got a really good connection all the time. So this is the dude we're going to work on. You do need a spare Antminer cable, possibly two if you screw up like I do once in a while on my wiring. So we're going to cut this dude and cut it down and just have the wires we need. Tweezers help. Small screwdriver, Phillips head helps. I've got these breadboard. What I chose to stick in this hashboard right here are these breadboard pins, and I put these in, and then I cut them here and I join them with the board. So I'll do something like that. So basically, it's going out the breadboard pins into that. Seems to work okay for me. I have a buck knife I use a lot of my repairs with all the time. And you don't have to have this, but I have a small Dremel that I'm going to carve out the side of this case just a little more so it looks nicer. You can use a saw, you can use anything like that. So these are the tools we're going to work with tonight. Don't know how long this will take. Oh, you do need a soldering iron, and I'll turn on my soldering iron later, because literally to get this thing apart right here, I have to unscrew it, pull the cap off, then I have to unsolder and pull out all these things. It's kind of a pain. Which reminds me, I wonder if I have my, I wanted to check and see if I had my tool set, because last time I did it with tweezers and it was kind of hard. Maybe, if I have the right tool. What I would get is a small set of pliers. I don't seem to have mine, so you're going to see me struggle for a little while with a pair of tweezers, a couple different pairs of tweezers. Yeah, I wish I had my tool set. That would be really nice. I've got a big pair of pliers, but I think it's too big. Small pair of needle nose would really speed this up for sure. So, all right. So if you like this content, this is going to save you a couple $100 if you do this for sure. If you're working on hashboards, so hopefully you find this video helpful. Please subscribe to my channel. If you hit that bell over there, you get notified when I publish something new on a new content. Oh yeah, what else do I use? Heat shrink. Don't forget about the heat shrink. You need a hot gun for that. In addition, we have a Discord channel. You'll see the link up above in the video description or below in the video description. If you join that, go to rules, Click the green checkbox. You'll join 1,700 other people working on hashboards. You're able to ask questions, post pictures, post videos, have voice chat, and really talk to people that know what they're doing. So hopefully you can grab the attention of a professional and really learn a lot. And if not, eventually you'll just scroll back through tons and tons of history of discussions on how things work. It's just really beneficial. The only place like this I know it is that Discord channel, for sure. All right, so let's get started. Hopefully the glare's not too bad. I'm gonna open up this new SkyPro, take it out of the box. You want to be careful when you're taking it apart, but the first thing I'm going to do is pull off this. I don't know if I can get this closer to watch. Yeah, let me see if it works. Maybe, maybe not. So I'm going to pull these things off. I use a little Phillips head screw thing. So we're going to take this top off. Just a second. These are basically throwaway. You're going to kind of see me destroy the whole thing. So let's see if we bring this up and just pull that off, get rid of it. Some of you guys there's nothing wrong with sticking the pins in here and clamping it. Once they fall off, they fall off. So I'm going to really remove this whole system off of here and do it a different way. You can choose to just leave it original, which would probably be valuable, and do it that way. But I'm choosing to do it this way. This is the way I've chosen. So let me see. To get this cap off, you've got to very gently, with a screwdriver, kind of start it off, kind of open it up, get it going. So I'm taking the top off this dude. It'll pop off here without breaking. Okay, so I started it. I'm just going to go around. Just going to open the top up, which is real easy. You don't want to pull these buttons off, because then you lose your SkyPro, which is $100, right? Let me get this top off. All right, so you want to be careful. We have the screen flopping around all the time. But this is what I'm after, is this guy right here. The only way to get it off is to get rid of these, and then I have to unsolder those. So I'm going to have to use a soldering iron sooner than later. Let me see. I want to pull the board out of here. So there's a couple screws here. Let's get those out. We'll put these screws back. Okay, let me see what else is hiding back here. Right here. Want to be careful, because this does have some small wires itself. So you do all this work and break the board, have to repair the board. What use is that? So I think I can get this out, which is nice. Okay, so pieces are falling out. That's fine. This sits here. You just want to be real careful. So what's different about this here is this battery here. For some reason, the ones Zeus sells, or where they get them, this battery's off, so it doesn't run. So you probably could buy a battery. Let me see, is there any other difference? Not really. So I'm going to beat up on this just a little bit. This guy, I think I can pull off this plate. Probably not. So what I do first, you got to be careful on this model. Let me see if I can do this in a way I'm not going to damage too much. I don't want to damage too much. These are there's a bunch of pins out here, but there's also resistors, so you want to be careful. I'm going to go ahead and turn on my station, because I'm going to use the soldering gun for this, basically. And I'm going to take the soldering gun and I'm going to push each one of these pins out till it's down. We're going to remove this pin and pull these guys out. And I use probably a different set of tweezers. Let me find my tweezers. I'll grab them with my favorite tweezers over here. So let's see about pushing some of these guys out. You can even, if you want, apply a little flux. I don't know that it's necessary. We're kind of being destructive, so I haven't done it with this tip yet. So let's see what happens here. So I'm just going to place the tip on the back of that dude somewhere. Wait till it gets hot and push it. Maybe. The last tip maybe I need a bigger tip too, so can't remember the tip I used. Let me turn it up a little bit. Okay. Take a sideways approach. Second, my laptop's falling asleep that I'm recording on here, so. Got one of them. Get them hot and you push them. Yep, there with that. Just don't want to lose the resistors on those dudes. I'm just going to each one, melting the solder and pushing them through. They're not out all the way. I'll have to come back. It's kind of real clunky how I have to do it. You guys might have a better way. But I'm just getting them further out right now so I can work with them out there. There's 8 pins altogether. Yep. Come on, get out of there. Couple more, we got it. Alright, so now I see some empty holes. I see some holes full of solder. I still see all the resistors intact. We'll probably check them out with the microscope. What happened is these little things that are clamps along here, you can kind of see them, they're metal. They've now come out a little further. So the way I do this, and I could probably use a vise, but I grab 2 of them, I start pulling on them, and I heat the place where they were. I got to figure out how I did this. Might have done it with different hands. Not sure here. This is the most clunky part there is. Come on, baby. There, I got one set out. I got to do this about 16 times, so let's take the top one off here. You can kind of feel it when you pull it out. I'm just kind of ripping these dudes out. Okay, here's 2. See, you gotta grab it kind of offset. It's 3. Like I said, feel free if you have a better way of doing this. You might. It's just the way I kind of put it together. It's gonna be my fastest one yet. Number 6 on one side. And 7. Pliers would have been good, but this is working pretty good right now. I'm kind of flying through these. Then the 8th one down there. Alright, start back up here. Number 2 is... I displaced a resistor, so I'm going to have to go fix him. It's okay, I can do that. Number 3. Four. 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 5. 6. Seven. Finally, last one. Holding it all together. Okay, let me see what damage I did to the board. Looks like I plopped an important resistor here. Let me get it out of here, get it off my... Alright, so let's worry about that right now and get the board back intact. I'm gonna show you what I mean. So this fell out. This guy, I believe, comes off now. Yeah, he just pops up. So now I've got it where they mounted. But let's take a look with the microscope what I need to fix. Okay. So here's the damage I did. The pins were in each one of these, and I blew out a resistor. So I think what I'll do is, and it's an important resistor because I'm only using the bottom 4. Let me see, which bottom am I using? Hang on. So I'm using the top 4 of each set. So I need that resistor. I could probably care less about this one that's kind of sitting out there, kind of funny. But that resistor is important, and I saved it or it dropped. That's fine, I can put it back on. It's right there. So let me get a little bit of flux, get some different tweezers. My soldering iron's still on, kind of too high. So if you can do it without breaking it, that's always better, but this isn't a big deal. So we will turn this guy over without losing them. I think it was this way, so I'll just, since it's easier, I'll turn him around. He's right there. Alright, so we're going to do something like that. I don't know what the significance of great. Alright, so just a second. See if I can... I might need to put this in a holder, but I think I can do this. Let's flux just a touch. We should have done that before I put the resistor down, but let's just... Let's flux. Hopefully that solder will reseat itself. Let me see if I can do this all one-handed. So try to capture it here. Again, if you're clean about how you do it, you won't have to redo all this. I'm going to turn it around because that's just how I roll. And it's fourth one down, right? This guy right there. So let's hang on to him. Put him back in place here. I think I can still get a pin through there, and I think he's still connected. Let me look. We might have to check these afterwards. Yeah, he's on there. Okay, enough of the microscope. We fixed. Now I have one off down here. I'll leave it like that. We don't even use these last 4 ports. I mean, I could put them back on. Let me look. Maybe I might as well do that now. Might as well fix it. I don't like leaving things messed up. We won't even use this, but let's see if we can put him back down where he belongs. I want to turn it around just because of the way my hands work. Let's grab. Maybe. It's kind of weird that dude sticking up in the air like that. So wait a second. So I can get him to collapse down there. Back where he belongs. There's the saw. Is this sticking up? Probably. Oh look, there was a piece there. Okay, that's better. He's off now. Come back here now. You don't know how cockeyed I am. What is that sitting in there? Let's get rid of that. We're not going to use it. Let's get that guy out of there. He's causing some difficulty. Okay. So one more time. He's right. Let me make sure I got the right one here. He's right where the flux is. I think this was him. Alright, needless to say, that's enough of that. So he's repaired. Let me go back out of here. Alright, so what do we have here? This guy's back to where it was. I pulled off this, so now you have basically you have 2 rows of 8 places where the pins were. A little bit of solder stuck up there, but we can handle that. So really the next step to me is I want to secure these test pins through those holes. And so really what I do is one at a time. I don't know if I can't remember if I do it on the bottom or the top. Let me clean up the top just a touch. Might as well use flux. What the heck. So I'm just working with the top front 4, the bottom 4, and the lower part of the unit. Man, one of these is going to need solder. That's unusual. I don't usually pull all the solder out with the thing. And let me heat. There's no solder there. I'm going to have to supply a little bit of touch of solder there. Hang on. Give him something to use anyway. Okay, he's got some there. Alright, so let's put, let's start with, I'm going to keep this ribbon all together. Sometimes it's just easier. So I'm going to put red in the lower part. Sometimes I think I can do it this way, just by heating it here. And just push it in, which is kind of interesting. I don't want to burn my switches, but yeah. So he's in there. Let's see if I can get it closer. I just stuck it in there where those pins were and soldered it. Okay. So let's do the next one, which would be brown. Is the next pin up. Fumbly fingers. Sorry. Probably better if I had this dude in a vise. Alright. So now he's oriented the right way. Let me get some things hot here and he'll drop in. Good. Next is white. No, black. Put it over the hole. Heat them all up. They're probably blocking them. Try that again. Good. And last but not least, okay, so I got the first half in. Pretty good strong connections. They stick out the bottom a little bit here. But there's nothing going to pull it out. In fact, let me, if I have it, let me show you what comes from Zeus. I don't know if I have her handy or not. I think I put it away for posterity's sake. Alright, at about this point in the video I was searching for the Zeus version to show you the solder joints, and I couldn't find it, and I inadvertently muted my microphone. So what they did is they basically just soldered the wire right on the board there, and as you jiggle that around when you're using it, it just pulls those wires out. So what I've got now is I've got pins through them, and there's just no way that they're going to shake loose from there for sure. So we still have to do the next set. So I'm going to work on that. Kind of clunky a little bit. You have to do everything by hand. You guys might have even a better way. I kind of shopped online a little bit looking for right angle connectors for that to plug a cable in. Maybe it was, but I just didn't want to go order 15 things, have them not work, and wait. So I had these breadboard jumpers, and so I used the breadboard jumpers, and it's worked out all right. This will be the third one I've made. So I'm just continuing to put these in. I'm not worried about a wiring diagram yet at all. I'm just getting wires in there. Notice that those breadboard things, they're all different colors. That's going to be important so you don't get confused and have them all one color. So if you do buy them, they're pretty inexpensive on eBay. You can buy ribbon cables full of them. Make sure you choose 8 different colors to use on there. It'll make your job so much easier. So much easier. So I had a difficult one there. It just did not want to go in. So I just kept struggling a little bit. Let's get it in. You know, it'd be better if I had a vise and could hold that board and I could just do all this stuff. But I don't right now, so it's just everything's loose. Just be real careful. You see that screen flopping around up there. You gotta kind of watch yourself and not screw the thing up. See that one pin? It was sticking out just a little bit. I never did get it all the way in, but it's in enough. It's soldered. It's all good. All right, those are in. They're on the board. Have misplaced where I'm showing you on the camera, but they're all there. See them stuck in there where it's the lower 4, the top 4 you don't use as it sits there. So that part of the job is done. Now the next part of this video is going to be concerning using the wire diagram, and we're going to deal with this ribbon cable basically. Before that though, you have all these cables coming out of that weren't coming out. There was this little hole on the side of the case for the for that lever to put the chip in and hold it down. So now all these wires are going to have to go out that way, and that's the way I choose to do it. Is I push the wires out that way and have to fit in there. So that's why I have the Dremel. So we're gonna take this off and I'm gonna expand that hole. You can see how I have the wire coming out the side there on the one I built before. It holds it in there pretty tight, makes it so you're not gonna get a loose solder joint. So I've got my friend the Dremel, and I'm gonna grind away, and unfortunately you don't get to hear the wonderful grinding sounds, but yeah, so I tried at a low RPM on this. This is a Harbor Freight, it's not even a Dremel, so I got a Harbor Freight, and I just comes with some tips that have this kind of saw, and I did find out during this video, just in a second I'll turn up the speed of it and it'll just grind the heck out of that stuff. So I opened up a really nice slot. Just gonna grind that thing. You have to get it spinning good. I keep it pretty low because I have a small wire brush on it I use to clean off the top of the chips sometimes. So there, I sped it up. Now it's really making some noise for the video, except you don't get to hear it because I muted my microphone. So I'm just cutting that slot out deeper, as you see. Maybe a little more. Should cut it a little more. That's not quite enough. So for those of you not skipping ahead, make it a little wider. There's a lot of wires. There's 8 wires and heat sinks that have to go through there. So I'm going to clean up my mess stuff and get all the stuff off. This is all the stuff I ripped out of this board. Yeah, see how nice those wires are plugged in there now? There's you can move them and move them and move them, and they're not going to come unsoldered. So not the prettiest thing, but for sure. All right. So now, not sure what I was explaining there. Probably just what I explained. I think soon we're going to take a look at the wiring diagram. Could be why I'm leaning. I have my PCI record on way to the left. Okay, so this wiring diagram is on the Discord channel. I will see if I can post it in community on YouTube. I'm not sure. I've never made a post. For you subscribers, you'll get it probably. But basically this ribbon cable is kind of upside down. Number 1 pin is probably at the lower right where it should not be. But if you notice, there's 5 cables on the top row. That thing I was pointing at right there is the clip that goes in the plug. And so we have 5 cables that go along the top, the first 4, and then the second one to the right. And then on the bottom, it looks like more, but there's only 3 cables labeled 8, 9, and 10. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the top, and 8, 9, 10. I don't know why I skipped some things, but I did. So I call them 1 through 5 and 8 through 9, 10. And then I've wired it down to where you put it in the lower 4. You can kind of see the screen where the player is, and then the open gaping hole that we removed that clamp from there. So I'm going to keep referring back to this wiring diagram. So if you're watching this video, you might want to grab a screen cap of this and set it aside so that you can refer back to the wiring diagram more than once, for sure. So I've got to trim the ribbon cable down, then I've got to match it up with the colors. So that's what we're going to do. I think it's the ribbon cable next. So if I get my tools set up for the next phase of this, get the stuff moved out of the way. Yeah, put that aside. Here's what we're going to work on right here. So it'd be advisable, the ones I bought are kind of short. You might see if you can find a really long one from somewhere, because I think it makes it easier. Although so far with the ones I built, I haven't had any problems. So I'm going to cut off the end of this because you don't need 2 ends. I've got to join the wires of those breadboard jumpers with this. So I'm going to, I probably use some right tools for that. I always just cut into the table using my buck knife though. So all right. So now I'm going to try to match this up to the wiring diagram, and if you pulled this off by now and have this on the side, I'm going to try to figure out. So I'm working on the top row, and I'm going to take the first 4. Oh no, I'm going to work on that single one out by number 5 out there. So that there's one single one way out on the end. It's the second pin in. So I'm going to separate that out. Okay, so working on the top row. That was number 5 I just pulled. And I'm going to cut off the excess from there. Looks like I've pulled out the number 4. I've pulled out the other 4 separated from it too. So I've got my top row, 4 there, and then 5 there. Okay, so that's the top row on the wiring diagram. I'm just making sure I did it right, because sometimes I screw up and flip the cable over. So now I'm going to pull the first 3 and keep the 3 intact for right now. You don't want to just separate them all out, because when you're wiring them up it helps keep track of where things are. So, and I'm going to trim those dudes off. And indeed, you could do a better job trimming them off at the end. Granted, I'm not a perfectionist there, so those are a little bit scrappy. You probably go in and make them real nice. I usually kind of tape some of that stuff up. So, all right. So the picture goes like that in the wiring diagram. You have 4 on the top, 1 over to the left, and then 3 coming out the bottom on the right-hand side. So that's what we're going to work with here. And then basically I'm going to trim those dudes off, all the ends of those cables. Kind of hate to lose them, but kind of nice things. I bought a bunch of those on eBay. Alrighty. So I think now this next segment is we're going to just follow the diagram and put these together. And I have a system on how to put them together so they can't be pulled apart. I was really concerned about the use, because you take this out to your mining operation and just those things just fall apart. So I just wanted to make things just a little bit tougher to use. So I think what I'm going to choose is the number 5 to do first, because it's all by itself. Is that the case? Let me see. Or number 1. Nope. So I've got the 4 ribbons. I'm going to pull off the number 1 cable, which is the far right upper cable on my wiring diagram. I'm going to strip it down to a certain point. And according to my wire diagram, number 1 is all the way to the bottom on the left. And you see that red cable? That's all the way to the bottom on the left. So I'm going to separate it out. And this is the 2 cables I'm going to work with right here. So I'm going to work with these dudes and put them together. And I'm going to get my handy dandy heat shrinks out. And before you do this, I'm going to tie them together, then I'll tie them in a knot, but I'm going to put the heat shrinks on first. So actually I have to untie this one once. So I just kind of feed the heat shrink down. But then I realized I actually put more heat shrinks on than just these. So stay tuned. I'll get this wound up. I'll have to take it apart. Just using a regular buck knife on my table to do these. I'm sure you guys have some great tools on working with wires. But I'm going to do this 8 different times. So I'm making sure I have the right wire, because I have 3 single wires running around on that. So I've got to find the right one. So I'm pulling against it and saying, which one are you? Because I put it down. Alright. Oh yeah, so I found out that I have to put some heat sinks down. So I put a pair of heat sinks on just toward that wire. I put one inside another one, and that'll kind of make a nice holder for that later. So I have to put those on first, because I'm going to start joining these wires. So my strategy now is to do each one of these. And I do want to add one more heat shrink, because I put a heat shrink around all of those dudes there. So I'm going to throw all these on. You got to do all this first before you start joining the wires. You're going to take them all apart, so make sure you do that step. So I'll just stuff it down there for right now. Don't need to do the heat shrink, but it'll lay over to the side like that. Yeah, just like that. So, go in that slot right there. That's what that's for. Alright, so I've got my red one. I think I have the right one there. I got to go figure out, is that the right one? So I give a couple yanks, watching it at the end of the plug to make sure I have the right one. Yeah. Okay. And actually it was the only one strip, so I probably didn't need to do that. So, alright, so I just give this a twist. I don't need to do any fancy knot. Then I tie it in a knot. And the reason I tie it in a knot is to give it strength if it gets yanked on really hard, so it doesn't pull out of anywhere. So now if you notice, I've got the knot. I'll solder it later and stuff, but what I'll do is I'll tie it in a knot, I'll solder it, then I'm going to slip that heat sink right over it. I forgot something though, so let's see what I forgot. That's when I had to redo it. What did I change? Oh, I forgot to put its heat sink back on. I just had the main one, so that's what I forgot. Okay, so you gotta do this for each one. You see, before I join the two wires together, and I'll tie them. Your tweezers might come in handy here. Sometimes you're working pretty small, so you can dig your tweezers in and pull that through. If you're doing it right, you're probably going to need the tweezers through. On this video, I tend to make it a little longer, for sure. There. Okay, so that wire's done. I've put it aside right now. It's got its heat sink. I'll demonstrate how the heat sink goes on it. So when it's all soldered, not now, you definitely have to solder these wires, but I run the heat sink over and it's a pretty good tight thing, and you can't pull it apart, right? So it's really strong. It's a strong joint. You could use whatever you guys use in the industry. This is what I chose to do. So we're going to take wire number 2 on the wiring diagram, which is the next one to number 1 up on the plug. Let's pull that off. And on the plug, number 2 goes to the second one up from the bottom on the right, which looks like it's going to be blue. So we need to put number 2 on the blue wire. And the first thing you do is you get the wires together and put a heat shrink on the blue, because later on we've got to cover that knot. Alrighty, let's go to town here. So all doesn't have to be perfect. You can put these together any way you want. This method is much stronger than what you can buy though. Okay, do my knot. Okay. Okay, we're doing wire number 3 right now. Let's see, so that would be number 3 on the wiring diagram from the right going left. Number 3 goes to the second one up from the bottom, which is the brown wire. Throw on the heatsink. And let's strip these dudes. Get these wires stripped. Okay, tie that guy up, number 3's done. And then I got to just find number 4 and make sure it's the single wire and not the number 5 hanging off. So I got to pull on it to make sure I know which one I'm grabbing. So that's it. We're looking at number 4, and number 4 goes to the top left. In the top left up there, it looks like I have, what color is that? Was it purple? Oh, it's the white one. No. Top left. Yeah, it is the white one. So same process on this. Heat shrink. I always say sink. I don't know why, so excuse me. Okay, wrap those guys up. Give them a tie and a knot. Okay, move on to the next. So now I think we're going to get the single guy number 5. Or maybe not. See, I'm looking for where 5 goes. 5 goes to the top on the right. So I'm just straightening out the wires to put the ones I've done off to one side so I have some room to work. So 5 goes to the far right top, which would be what color is that? Is that green? It's actually the gray wire, it looks like to me. Throw on that heat shrink. Same process. Okay, 3 more to go. We're going to do the top 3 of the, or the bottom 3, which I have labeled on the wiring diagram, 8, 9, and 10. I'm going to start with the outwardmost part of the cable, which is number 8. Making sure I got that right. Alrighty, so there's number 8, and number 8 maps to the second one down on the right. I'll figure that out in a second. Yeah, so I'll show you what I'm doing here. Number 8 is the bottom 3 of the pin up top out to the right. And if you follow that down to the bottom, it's the second one on the right. And I'll point that out with the mouse. Should be a mouse unless, yeah, there we go. So I'm working on that pin right there. And if you follow it down, it goes to the second one on the right. Second one down on the right, right below 5. So I'm going to look for that color of wire when I go to look. So now I look where I put the wire and find the color, and it looks like, am I going to say thought we did blue. No, it's purple. Okay. I think it's purple. Light purple. Put the heat shrink on. Cut these babies off. Give my knot. Now we're going to go back all through these when we do after we get the next two done, and we're going to solder these guys. Alright, so I have two wires left. I have green and black. Let's figure out where they go. So I'm going to find my ribbon cable, make sure I know which is the next one in line. That should be wire number 9. And wire number 9 goes down to the bottom right, the bottommost pin on the right. It looks like to me. Let's see what color I put there. The bottommost pin on the right looks to be green. There he is, right there. On the inside there. It looked like blue, but that was the outside. That's the inside line. You really should probably, watching this video, do a screen cap of that wiring diagram that I displayed, and it'll make a lot more sense with what I'm doing here. You can kind of follow along. Okay. One last cable. That must be number 10, and number 10 is supposed to, it's easy just to connect them, but to sanity check your work, number 10 is supposed to go to the second one down on the left. So is that black? So we're looking on the left, second one down is black. So we have left with what we think we have, what we thought we should have had. So that's good. So we'll finish this one up. And that kind of does it for the wiring diagram. We'll get that guy tied in a knot. I'm going to pull the heat shrink off, the one I showed you how it goes over, because we need to solder these wires. So it's kind of the next phase. Yeah, looks like a mess, doesn't it? So we're going to work on cleaning that up and make it look a little nicer. So yes, I have this thing called a helping hands, and it usually goes on a board, but I have other places to stick it. So I'm going to bring that down. Yeah, so it just holds stuff. It probably won't go down far enough. But yeah, those things are kind of sticking out too much, so we're going to push them in some more. I don't often use these, but it kind of helps with these wires just to hold them. All right, so I got a soldering iron, got some of the solder I used to prepare the chips on the board. I'm going to throw some flux on the wires. I got to do this for each wire. I'm going to get the solder out and get my heat gun, not my gun, but my soldering iron. I put the soldering iron underneath just a little bit and just kind of feed it solder, and the flux smokes pretty good. The smoke looks pretty cool coming up at the video. I didn't get to see this because I was concentrating on what I was doing. So that wire is soldered. So one's done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to package it under the heat sink. Now sometimes you have to make it all fit, so I folded that guy over. And heat sinks can be a little tight, but they will stretch over it a little bit. Heat shrinks, sorry. I was doing that when I was recording this live too, so unfortunately, If you're watching now, my microphone went on mute when I reached over looking for the old Sky Pro that I bought that wasn't built very strong. So there you go. So that's what you do with those wires. So I'm just going to run through these. A lot of repetitive work. Throw a little flux on, just a little bit. The wire's hanging over. Then throw some solder on. Alright, solder really sticks to those wires, man. They go right on. Same thing with this. Pull it off. Manipulate the knot in the wire so it goes in. Pretty soon the mess is going to start cleaning up somewhat. And we've got two done. Good. Grab a third. And I'll tell you, I've been working on S17 Plus boards a lot, and I've been going through a lot of flux. There's just so many chips and so many chips loose that you have to go reflow, and I use a lot of flux to do the reflow, and boy oh boy, flux is magic stuff. You can tell that syringe I use, I just reuse it. I buy a bigger syringe and reload it in there. That syringe has been 8 months of use, just board after board after board. I just refill it every time I need it. Okay, so we got that heat sink on. That one's giving us a little trouble. It's pretty tight, but that's okay. All right, we're on wire 4. Give that a good shot of solder. And then put it in the heat shrink. Geez, that thing's starting to look a little bit nicer now. We're halfway through. So I guarantee you this method, it may not be pretty, but I haven't had a wire come off since I've done this. The Zeus, and I say Zeus, they probably bought it. I'm not sure they're making it, but it's just not made as well as it could be. They need to throw some of these wires in there and make it this way to be much stronger. I guess it's not as pretty. So, by the way, you guys that have the fixture from China, the hash code board editor from China, if your wires have fallen off, you can use my wiring diagram to fix it. In fact, you can always fix it this way. You can actually retrofit it because they've got a nice long ribbon cable. So feel free to use the wiring diagram and repair what you have, or you can just really find, I think there's like $24 eeprom reader and writers that don't have a nice screen, that don't have a battery, but you can do this with it and then hook them up to your PC through a USB port, talk to them that way, and hook them up to your hashboard and read the code and then rewrite it on other hashboards. You just have to have your PC there, which is a pain. The nice thing about this, it runs on a battery and I can take it out to the miner area and do what I need to do out there if I have to. Or I have stacks of boards where I stage a machine that I'm fixing, getting ready to get it run. I walk over to the machine with this. I don't have to worry about carrying my PC all around. So it is very, very convenient to do this. So down to the last 2 wires. Man, look at that smoke. So the thing you have to remember is get all your heat sinks in place before you start joining these wires, because they have to be there. You can't put them on heat shrinks. You can't put them on after. So word to the wise, pay attention and design your solution before you do this. Okay, I think we're on our last wire. Those things really soak up the solder. I got a big knot there, but I'm going to stretch that in. You got to shove it in there. There you go. Pull it through. Since that's tied in a knot, it'll take quite a tug before you would like rip out the wires and stuff. So looks a lot better already, huh? Everything's kind of put together. We just haven't run the heat for the heat shrink. And I want to just check the slot. I got to put the board back in next. I was talking about the TF card. This comes with a card for storage, which is kind of nice. And that's where that's at. It just goes in there, and that's how you store the stuff on the device. You can always change it later and get a bigger one, but these files are so small, I don't think you would ever run out with like 32 gig. So you want to be careful when I'm going to put these screws back in, but you want to really be careful. There's some really small wires, a black and a probably from the battery for the power going back over there. So when you put this screw back, be careful, don't muck with it and pull those wires out, because it's supposed to be covered and protected, and it's not. And I'm just struggling to put the screw in the hole before I get it screwed down. So I'm actually placing the circuit board back in. I'm just fumble fingers right now, basically. All right, here goes. Get this guy put back together somewhat. Get it ready. Okay, the other screw. Only 2 screws hold this in. Okay, so now I got to stuff this dude in there. Pretty close, but I'm going to apply I'm going to actually shrink it. So I'm going to get my hot air gun, and I'm going to shrink the dude up. Move my solder. Yeah, let's get that shrink down. There it goes. Good deal. So what I'm going to find here is I didn't cut my slot big enough. Before that I've done this, I've put 2 ribbon cables. You know how they were both ribbon cables coming out of those breadboard jumpers? I wasn't careful to line up those, so now I just need a wider space. So I'm sitting there struggling with it. It won't go in. I'm kind of pinching stuff and it won't go in. So. And it's because I last time I had them nice and flat next to each other. They went in and it went in, but I didn't do that this time. So I need a bigger slot. So over to the Dremel type tool, and we're going to make it wider so it goes in. This is kind of important because this is an added area of strength. Let's see if that's enough. I might have to go more. Nah, still struggling. I'll bet you I didn't do it wide enough there. So we'll see. Yeah, maybe I did. Nah, it's still kind of sticking out. I'm not real happy. So just as you get ready to do this, maybe make a little bit wider slot. You want it kind of snug in there so it holds the wire, but you don't want to crunch up all the wires getting it. So I'm gonna turn that baby up and get a little wider. I'm very careful not to go down and hit the circuit board down there. Yeah, it's getting wider. It's doing its job. Good. Okay. Geez, I had to get sponsored by Bauer there, which is Harbor Freight brand. So I got that thing at Harbor Freight. So it's been a useful tool. I put wire brushes on it and do really lightly buff the top of the chips to help me solder heat sinks on them. You want to be careful because you're breathing lead. So just leave that in. So I'm going to assemble the top and get everything held down. Make sure you put the screen in the right place and just kind of work it. Now you want to be careful. All those push buttons, if you force it down, you're going to break a push button. So you got to, all up here in the hole, be very careful when you're putting this back. You'll see them. It'll fall into place. You just got to keep kind of mucking around with it until it comes in, and even the screen will pop into place. I had to grab that one and reposition it just slightly, real easy, and it pops into place. I have one edge sticking out there. I'm not going to worry about that. I probably, because of the way I cut the hole and there's too many wires in there, it doesn't want to go down. So you'd probably, you know, for you, you'd probably want to adjust this, but that's not bad. It's getting there, isn't it? So we still haven't fixed all this stuff. So we need to take care of that. I'm going to shrink this port after I shrink the others, but it's going to slide out to there. So we'll save that. And I'm going to do the individual ones right now. Let's get the heat gun and get stuff out of the way and start shrinking. We're just going to swell that. Yeah, better move the heat shrink out of the way from the hot air gun too. You wouldn't have any left, would I? So you can see it kind of tighten around the knot and just sealing that, which is kind of good. Gives it added strength. So I'm just going to do that on each one here. I bought this heat shrink at Harbor Freight too. I think it's not very expensive. Yeah, so I'm just going to kind of do them all because they're all getting the heat. So I'm just going to, I have a wire sticking out on that one, but I'm not too concerned because it's the only wire sticking out. What I'll do is I'm going to put electrical tape over this whole thing when I finish. So let's finish up with this and close this in. So get that all nice and tight. Add extra strength and structure. Okay. Looks pretty nice, huh? Getting better. Although you guys might have fasteners that might be much more professional. So this is nice for me because it's functional, it's tough, it's not going to break, and I'm pretty happy. So like I did with the other one, I put electrical tape around that big mass and I just walk around with a kind of a stiff stick and I put it in the miner and I use it. I kind of wrap it around and then I wrap it with electrical tape and do that. And yeah, that's how I build this. So this save you a couple $100 if you want to do this work yourself and have the extra ribbon cable that's a little bit long. You need, if I would buy a longer one, but basically that's how it goes. So if you want the wiring diagram, you need to go to the Discord server that's in the comments. It's not in the comments of the video, but the description of the video. Go join Discord, and this will be floating around. And I'll try to put it on community so that you do it, but look how strong that is. So they're pretty tough little critters when you do it that way. You know how to treat them so gently. So hey, thank you for watching, and be sure to subscribe, huh? And until next time, I hope you're able to use this in the wiring diagram and save yourself some money and get a better tool.